This story, I do admit, sort of got past me because it happened in Chicago, and numerous people, scores of people over the last couple of decades, have died to gun violence in a Democrat controlled city, Democrat controlled state. So, what do you expect? But having said that, so when I first heard about this, it was from my son. He goes, "Hey, Dad, did you hear about this? 13-year-old kid gets shot in, Chicago." I was like, "What?" I'm like, "No way." So I went and looked at it and said, it took a while actually for me to actually get the correct information because it happened a week ago. But once I first, got it, because they didn't have the video out, and finally they did put the body cam video out. Tonight's gonna get spicy, but this wasn't an African American who was shot. It was a Latino boy that was shot. Now, on the surface, when you see that, this kid was shot by the police. I've done many videos in the past where I've talked about where other African American children in Chicago were shot by presumably other African Americans. No one gives a shit. Not one flying poop. Just not. Why? Because it always happens. It's been happening for decades. So at this point, everyone essentially has been desensitized. No one cares. Well, I care. Possibly some of my family cares. We care about, American citizens, dare I say, that maybe they don't vote the way I do, but I do care if they get shot, and they do get injured. And it's sort of, it's sad, but after a while, again, even myself gets desensitized, and you're just like, well, what am I going to do? Can't do anything. But Chicago braces for riots tonight, by the way, after video released in police shooting of a 13-year-old boy, Adam. It says Toledo. I don't know if it's Toledo. The correct Spanish pronunciation. I hope that's the correct. But the unrest is heightened over disputes as to whether or not a 13-year-old Toledo had a gun, which he did, by the way. Defining the incident as an armed confrontation is being brought into question. There are some news agencies that have doctored the video to sort of remove that gun from this kid's hand. I'm not going to play the video, especially for YouTube. Now, I will put the video out, the full video, complete uncut, from the police body cam. Okay, I get it that it's like, well, it's only one side on Odyssey and BitChute, because YouTube is, how they are, and they'll probably shove it down the memory hole so you'll never see it. The video showing 13-year-old Adam Toledo being shot by a Chicago police officer in the early hours of the morning is causing a firestorm online. And there's the video, and if you want to see it, go ahead and go on BitChute and Odyssey, look for Laszlo the Instigator, and I'll have that video up here shortly within the hour or so. With the recent situation involving Daunte Wright creating fresh unrest in Minnesota, many of the city of Chicago preparing for a new round of riots. Members of TK Maintenance board up a store along North Michigan Avenue, right? Chicago Tribune photojournalist Armando Sanchez. They know what's going on. They're not going to just wait around, because once tonight cooks up, the witching hour begins, and believe you and me, it's gonna get messed up. So, Chicago Mayor Lightfoot described it as excruciating to watch the newly released body cam footage. Today at a press conference, she called for peace and urged people to withhold judgment until the investigation is complete. Too late. You Democrat douche canoes have already set the precedent that go out and riot. That you did it. Over the last year, you did nothing when people rioted. We started burning down Costco's and burning down Targets and burning down AutoZones. You already put it out there that you guys don't care, and you say, well, rioting is the voice of the unheard, so therefore they're going to do it. And you done messed up. If you didn't nip this in the bud when it began, you wouldn't have this problem. Now you're going to have this problem. In Lightfoot's speech, she talked about young people in the local communities as having experienced trauma. She rounded off by stating the names of officers involved will eventually be released. Right. Well, it is public record, and it should be released, but what do you think they're going to do with that information? But again, they're still going to release the names. It's going to get out, if it's not already gotten out already. The entire video release is over 9 minutes long and is made available here by the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. A compilation of sequence combining various pieces of information was published by the Chicago Police Department. So it happened in the early hours of the morning of March 29th. The video starts mid-chase. 13-year-old Adam Toledo stops and turns around to put his hands up, but in the same instant, the cop opened fire and killed him. Immediately, the cop calls for an ambulance and tries to assess Toledo's condition. You all right? Were you shot? Yeah. But You see, the cop just didn't shoot this kid willy-nilly. Now, you got to understand, what happened was, I'm going to read the rest of the story and explain to you all out there of the listening world what happened. That's a dispute over the term armed confrontation. Report the state's attorney's office refutes to claim that Adam Toledo had a gun, which he did, in his hand the moment he was shot, which he didn't, but that's not the whole story. Toledo's right hand tested positive for gunshot residue. Okay? Now, I bet you're going to ask it out there in Leslie, why would he have gunshot residue on his hand? Just a wait. Activists are outraged and interpret this mean to the prosecutors lied. At the moment, we all can see at 5:34 in the body cam video is a weapon at the scene. It's a 9mm Ruger, per local news reports. In CNN's coverage, they say CNN's teams have viewed the footage, which appears to show less than 1 second pass between the time Adam Toledo draws a handgun and an officer fires a single shot. Fatal shot hits him in the chest. Cops call for ambulance as he lay dying, and they try to perform CPR on him. And at that time, there was no heartbeat, and so they continued, and it didn't happen. So CPR is carried out, and he and another officer urge Adam Toledo to stay awake. The cop who shot him eventually stops, lets one of the 10 officers now at the scene to take over. And of course, everyone's favorite, Palestinian liberation person reacted by saying, "I can't." He was 13-year-old, a baby. A baby with gunshot residue on his hand. But I'll get to that in a minute. Burnham Center, directly southeast of City County building, boarded up, tweets Brad Edwards of CBS Chicago. Boarding up across Chicago, City Hall's downtown braces for protests, which we know what's going to happen. He was shot dead by an officer in what CPD calls an armed confrontation. All right. How it was portrayed here. In Chicago, there are these sensors, gunshot sensors, and some of the same sensors they have in Afghanistan, where, let's say, someone fires a mortar into a camp in U.S. installation in Afghanistan, and they can track and they can triangulate where that shot came from the mortar. Same thing here. They have these sensors all around Chicago, especially in sensitive neighborhoods where they can triangulate. So if a shot goes out, they can triangulate. But if more than one shot comes out, they can more easily triangulate where that's coming from. Well, apparently, and according to reports, Adam Toledo fired 8 shots. Bam, 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 bam. 8 shots. And someone called the police, and so this kid started running away. And again, not going to play the video because YouTube is what YouTube is. They like to censor. They don't like this information, this really important information getting out. But they're not going to do that. So that happened. They triangulated the shot. The cops started running after this kid. They're telling him, stop, 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 stop. And they get to a point, and you can see where CBS, according to some of the resources I've seen and sources, that the kid dropped the gun and within a split second put his hands up and the cop shot him. Now, I don't know what you would do differently in this situation. Again, I got to stress this point, not a fan of cops. However, when you're a 13-year-old kid out in the middle of the night, run around popping off 8 shots from a Ruger 9mm, you got to expect you're going to attract unwanted attention from law enforcement. And when you attract unwanted attention from law enforcement, they're going to get scared. They have to investigate this, okay? They have to see, hey, we got to make sure that, we heard 8 shots. We don't know if there's 9 more shots in that magazine. We don't know if there's 1 more shot. We got to investigate. So the cop runs after the kid, and he gets shot. And then he dies on the scene, essentially. So, in conclusion here, a lot of these stories that I see people who are getting shot and killed, especially in Chicago, they sort of get past me. And probably get past you as well. There's so much crap going on in the world right now that you sort of, I dare say it does get past you, and it shouldn't get past you. You should sort of be aware of what's going on, but it somehow just got past me. And it is what it is, and And just even going further thinking about this, my wife was talking to me last night, and she was saying like, man, imagine if it was our son. My son's 15, and he just got out in the middle of the night one night. He wouldn't do that, thankfully, but let's just say he would, and this would happen. What would you do? I'd be pissed off, obviously sad and heartbroken and all that, but I'm not going to bear any blame right now, okay, on the parents, okay, because I don't know the whole situation. And I don't want to put any blame technically right now on the cops. And I really don't want to put blame on this 13-year-old boy. But I'm going to conclude with this. When you attract unwanted attention and the ire of police, and they go after you and chase you, you have to kind of expect some shit to happen. Maybe it ain't right. Maybe it shouldn't be right. Maybe it should never be right. But when you attract unwanted attention from law enforcement, okay, especially when guns are involved, you sort of have to half expect stuff like this to happen. I don't want it to happen. I'm pretty sure you out there in Lazo Land don't want it to happen either. However, when you attract attention from police, you're going to get, more often than not, a negative police response. I'd rather have a positive police response. Maybe perhaps once we get more information, we can sort of go through this data and go through all this. When we accumulate all the data and all the information together, so we can come to an informed opinion. But I guarantee you that right now, that cooler heads prevail isn't going to happen. And Chicago, unfortunately, tonight, I hope it doesn't happen. But looking back at past experiences over the last year in this country, Chicago will burn tonight.